Welcome. Thanks for joining us on this episode of What's Next for Financial Advisors, the podcast. My name is Bill Rambo, one of the founders and partners of What's Next. I'm joined today by our special guest, Kevin Gardenier, who we're going to hear a lot about and a lot from in a few minutes, and my good friend and associate, Brandon Kirst, our producer, off in the background. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. Excited to have this conversation. We've been talking about having this conversation for a year and a half. There were some other things along the way that made it even more important for us to do it.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's certainly been in the forefront of our minds.
Yeah. And just to share with the audience, this episode of What's Next for Financial Advisors, the podcast, falls under the category of a story to tell. This is not one where we're going to spend a lot of time talking about how Kevin built his business and, how what role financial planning or annuities or, wrap accounts or any of that stuff takes in his business, but more so some of the mindsets and some of the soulful content that really has helped to drive his business to where it is today. So once again, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's do this. Just take a few minutes and just tell us a little bit about your background and your background in the business, so we do add a little bit of business content to it.
Yeah, well, I grew up in New Jersey and came out here to Michigan to go to college, where I went to Calvin College, got my business degree, held a couple different jobs after college. I was a manager of a sporting goods store. I worked in mortgages, and that's where I actually wrote a mortgage for one of Ed Postman's clients. And he was working at Waddell & Reed, and my company was going through a buyout. And he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a financial advisor?" It's like, "Well, I'm going to need a job, so yeah, that sounds great." And so he interviewed me, and that was 23 years ago. And the rest is history. Here we are, Purposeful Wealth Strategies, 23 years into it.
And Purposeful Wealth, that's your firm, your DBA. Yeah. How long has that been around? Tell us some
Since 2018.
Yeah. And some
so
of
5 years.
For it coming to life.
What was that?
Some of the impetus for it coming to life.
Yeah.
Why Purposeful Wealth?
Well, a lot of financial...
It's more than a name.
It is. A lot of financial planning seems to be done around how much can a client put into their 401k, and what does that get them at age 62, 65, whatever the time frame is for them to take Social Security. At least that's what it seemed to be for a while. And I had clients that would retire, and a year later they were working part-time back in their old job, doing more, and it's part-time. And I was like, this isn't what you signed up for. This isn't what I at least had envisioned, but it's not my vision for their life. And I thought that needed something a little bit more. And, we have a lot of people that work their tail off for 30 plus years just to get to this point that somebody said that they needed to get to. And that doesn't seem so purposeful or intentional. And so I wanted to kind of change that and have people start thinking about, what are you going to do when 62 or 65 comes around? And what can we throw out to the universe and have come back? And let's try and think big. Let's have a purpose for why you are working, instead of just because someone told you this is what you're supposed to do. And so that's where this is all kind of started from. And I wanted to offer people purposeful wealth strategies, something that is unique to them, unique to their situation, unique to their life, enriching, fulfilling. And then I wanted to live the same thing. And so I want to be able to live that. I want to be able to offer my staff and team that. And I want to be able to show my clients maybe a roadmap, or at least be a bit of a role model in how to live your life with some purpose and intent, and try and maximize as much of it as you can, whatever that is for you, because it's different for everyone. Yeah, this isn't just about me, or even just our clients, although I have clients first, always. But it's not about not just me, right? I have Kristen and Renee, and they are extremely important in my ability to do the things that I do.
And Kevin, you wanted that purposefulness to extend to the ladies and drive more purpose in their life. And so what are some of the ways, or how were some of the ways initially that you helped them get their arms around being purposeful in the approach to their jobs and their lives?
Well, there's a couple things. One, in my quest, I guess, for intentionality and purpose, I've become a little bit of a fitness and nutrition nerd, and take that pretty seriously for myself. And so I have a personal trainer, and I extend the use of her to Kristen and Renee, and they can get to use Megan as I do. And I want them to be healthy and focus on their health, so that, that's part of it as well. As a lot of people end up getting to age 60, 70, whatever that is, and then everything goes into a downward health spiral. And so I want to make sure that it's myself, my staff, and then if we're here, maybe it'll permeate out of us a little bit more too. And it's us as a whole that have purpose. And I think that people can feel that.
Let's talk about that, because I feel it regularly in our interactions with you. There's a lot of talk of being purposeful and doing things that can help put clients in a position where they can live the lives they want to live, not just because we've amassed money in accounts, right? But because we've taken the time to talk about in depth what they want to be, what their purpose is, to talk about some of those conversations. Maybe not so much the exact words you share, but what do they feel like? How do they come about, and what do they result in?
We could say that they could be like huggable conversations, because they're pretty intimate. They end up having clients answering and looking at themselves deeper, or in ways that maybe they hadn't before. I utilize a system called Money Quotient, which is a way to interact with your clients using some science-based questioning, and allows you to bring them on a, not a ride, but the right framework, or spectrum, in order to get them in the right mind to be able to talk about these things. And it's very eye-opening to all of us. We really get to the heart of what makes people tick. And then that's a lot easier for me to help determine what is a good choice for them, or what are good options, because we want to give them options that allow them to have choice, that allow them to feel good about where they're at. And the more I know about somebody and where they're at and what's important to them, the better we can do in that area.
Now, the purposefulness just does not just live in your office. It doesn't just live in your staff. It's not something you're just sharing with clients as a way to help make their, not just their financial planning, but their lives better. You are very purposeful about supporting your community because you are on the autism scale.
You got it. I'm an autistic individual and part of a community that's a lot larger than people realize, and maybe people don't even realize they're a part of it. I didn't. I just found out 5 years ago that I was on the spectrum and an autistic individual, and that explained quite a few things for me. But it also, gives me a place to put some purpose and intention in order to help some of the individuals that maybe have a little bit more difficulty navigating social interactions or just the way the world is set up. And I want to be able to help them as much as I can. So the business has a purpose, has more than one purpose, but as a whole, my mission in life is to make a positive, lifelong impact in the lives of others. And so that is my purpose, and that's the way that, I look at things. And so there's different areas that need that purpose, and it's clients and my team and autistic community and friends and family. And so we don't have to even just be pigeonholed into one purpose. It is your purpose as a whole in life might be something. And you can sprinkle a little bit of your love all over the place.
And you have a couple of years ago, you committed to sprinkling some of that love in the direction of Autism Support of Kent County, ASK.
Yeah.
One of the largest in the state, I believe.
Oh, yeah. They do a ton across the state, and Kent County is, of course, a pretty populated county here in Michigan, and it does so much for providing resources to parents, and we're working on getting into info to adults, and I had a little different experience finding out as an adult and realized that we do need to foster a little bit more availability for those individuals finding out as adults. And that's where Ask comes in, and that's where I can contribute my thoughts and ideas. And you were a part of when we helped with a program to match some funds that started a place called Clubhouse. And that offers some intentional independence for young adults so that they can be able to get the tasks and skills to be able to hold a job, live on your own. And those are the important things, because a lot of times we're focused in on individuals as children, and every one of those children turns into an adult. And so we have to make sure that support is purposeful past childhood.
And you really did it up, especially that first year with the changes on your website and interviews and tapings and raising funds and going around town and talking with people. It was quite impactful. And you're still doing a lot of that on behalf of Ask.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll ask this question. I don't feel a pressing need to, but it must have impacted your business, right? It must have been being purposeful in supporting people on the spectrum, such as yourself, must have been good for your business.
It is. That certainly hasn't been the intent, but I've met several wonderful individuals and families that I've been able to work with. I've been able to provide some info and insight on a larger scale that's more like maybe group oriented. And if anything, was at an event a few months ago and had an individual come up and just say thank you. We know what you do, but you're not here pushing that, but you're always here. And we appreciate that. And that's what I want to have them realizes I'm there because I am part of the community. I'm not an outsider looking in. I'm an insider looking out.
I get it. You're an insider looking out. Um, you recently experienced a couple losses in your family.
Yeah.
Your father and your brother-in-law, I believe.
Yeah,
And
and my sister.
that's right.
That
I'm
we're
sorry.
coming up on it in 2 weeks. It'll be a year exactly.
And of course, you shared before we started today. Today's other than it being the day after my wife's birthday. Today is what for you?
Today is my 24th cancer-free day.
Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
That's,
My goal is to have 70 cancer-free days. Years, I should say.
well,
Cancer-free years.
I know you do a lot to take care of yourself. Half of our
Yeah.
calls are usually spent on what you're doing lately and what I should start doing to take better care of myself. And
Yeah, I just need to do it earlier in life. Yeah, lots of people go 70 years and then get cancer. I went 27, and then I figured I'd have a longer stretch cancer-free that way.
okay.
Yeah.
So going back to some of these losses, you shared a story or two, particularly as it related to Dad's passing, which
Yeah.
was a couple months back, and you shared some stories that were shared with you
Hmm.
that you weren't aware of when you were at his service. So we certainly want to hear the story or stories, but I also want to hear how that may have further impacted you and continued to drive you along this path of purposefulness. So,
All right. Well, I guess to start is just give a little background on my dad. He was 89 when he passed away, which was in April of this year. He had been working up until September 29th of 2022, which was his retirement date. So he was 88 when he retired, working 3 days a week, operating a metal hand lathe, making valves because he could do it better than a CNC machine at age 88 in a big lens to help him see everything. And so the owner of the business is like, "Hey, Raj, come and go as you please. Just we want you to hang around and because you do it better and maybe at least show some of these younger kids what's going on." Now, there's an interesting piece to this that I didn't fill you in on, Bill, and that is he didn't show me those things because he didn't want me to end up working in a factory or on a machine lathe. And so he actually went out of his way not to show me some of those things, which at a point I kind of was like, "Hey, what's up with that?" But on his date of his funeral, two young guys come in and they don't speak English really well, which is interesting because I don't know how my dad would have been able to interact because he did not speak anything other than English. But these two young kids were there with tears in their eyes talking to my mom about how he showed them how to do their job and how to do it the right way with an attention to detail, to not cut corners, to not, you had an important job here, do it the best you can. And so that's what I got out of these things from my dad. It wasn't necessarily how to do it with your hands, but that you need to apply some detail, do it better than other people. And that was what I also learned from one of his buddies, John, that I'd never met. I'd heard about him, but never met him in person until the funeral. And he would talk about how that they were the best two guys in northern New Jersey and everyone knew it. and that they didn't slack, and they had an attention to detail. They punched out at 4:01 every day, and they weren't waiting, and they just did their job really, really well. And to circle back, these two young guys were picking up on the same thing and felt as though their lives were better because my dad showed them how to do some things.
That sharing of that focus, that skill, obviously, and that focus, to me, is all wrapped up in being purposeful in anything you do, right? And that's just such a cool story when you told it to me. That's when I knew we had to have you tell this story. You have a story to tell, young man, and I'm so thankful you're sharing it with us. Now, coming out of Dad's passing, we had a conversation, and I think it was the day you were driving home from New Jersey, and I believe that's what it was. Could have been a subsequent one, but you started talking about how it was going to inspire you to be even more purposeful in doing some of the things that you love to do.
Yeah. And double down on my health, if not triple down on that as well. But, a lot of people go a long time in their life without having lived their life. And, as I said, my sister, she was 55, she passed away. My dad, 89. And then after that, my brother-in-law, age 59, missed his 60th birthday by 2 days. There's a lot of missed life in two of those situations. And even possibly in the third, in my dad. He lived a long time, but he never made it to Alaska. And there's a couple things that he never did that he really wanted to. And I don't want to have that type of situation come up where there was something I missed. And so, as you know, I am a avid hunter. That is what I do.
Move over so we can see your trophy. There you go.
Oh, gotcha.
When is that one from?
That one's from Texas.
Okay.
But I just got back from Montana last night and got a white mule deer while I was there. And, I love to hunt, but what I've been realizing on my trips, because I've been all over this year, is that I love hunting, but I love hunting for experiences and hunting for adventure and hunting for purpose. And part of that might be coming home with an animal, but I'll tell you, I'd come home with less animals more often than not, but I come home with thoughts and intent and clear mind and a cleaner soul, and gives me, I feel better after I've been in the mountains. And so I spend a lot of time west of the Mississippi, or at least that's what it seems to be. And because I want to make sure that I don't miss those things that unfortunately I know my sister and brother-in-law did, just because of their shortened time here. And we don't have that opportunity to pick. And so it's cliche, but you have to live every day like it's your last, just because you never know. And so to me, the calculation is then you have to live with purpose, because we don't know when that day is going to come. So don't have those regrets that you didn't do the things you wanted to do. And hey, if you don't know how to do it, come call me. We'll figure it out.
Well, your purposefulness has yet to bring you east of the Mississippi to Rhode Island, but I'll keep working on that.
We'll work on it.
Yeah.
We're getting closer.
Yeah. The I'm sure there's some people who will listen to this podcast and say, yeah, but his business must. Either his business must suffer, or he must have a business that entirely runs his itself, so that he can afford to go do these other things. Where is that business of yours on that spectrum? How would you describe it in that regard?
It's again, I am extremely thankful for Kristen and Renee
They are
and
wonderful, wonderful
my
people,
team.
and
Yeah,
wonderful teammates.
my team is what allows me to do that. We've been doing this for 23 years, so we have a pretty good idea how to do it and what we're doing. And so, but I'm also not somebody whose intent and purpose is to make as much money as I possibly can, where somebody might have that, and that's great. I'm looking to help people and allow that to trickle down to me and my team.
And because of that great team, you are afforded the opportunity, not about money, but time, because they can take care of things because they run the office so well.
And they are also afforded that time as well, because I have a vacation policy, which means you go when you want to go.
Now, as I mentioned before, my good friend Brandon Kirst is producing this podcast, which means he hears every word that's uttered. So we're going to have to figure out a way to edit out those words. So Brandon,
he's already heard them.
Part, but
I don't know if this will be for the podcast or not, but I did come back from Montana with a mule deer and something else.
The tattoo.
Yes.
Tell us about it. This is the podcast, by the way.
I've been wanting one for a while, and I'm big into bow hunting, and I'm an archer, and the symbolism of an arrow and the direction and intentionality and purpose that all comes with an arrow and archery. It all comes together in that, and the idea of having that be a constant reminder and be a piece of me is where we get that from.
Now, that was professionally done. You didn't just do that with...
No. That was done in Lewistown, Montana by Hans. Okay. And he did it freehand. So he just drew it. He didn't have a pre-laid out picture that he traced. He just freehanded it.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's take a few minutes. Let's talk about continuing along this line, this theme of purposefulness, and intention. And what are your intentions for the future of purposeful wealth strategies?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, it's to continue our mission, which is to make a positive, lifelong impact in the lives of others, and continue to do that. We have an emphasis on financial planning and, realizing that investments are the tool to get us where we want to go. But having those conversations, those intimate value, what's important to you questions, those are where the rubber meets the road, and that's what's really important is getting the ideas of what is your purpose, and then how do we get that onto paper and then live it. And so we're going to continue to do that. We're going to be looking at trying to improve our operations, and how smooth we operate, and always looking to add more financial planning based clients. And so we may even look at buying another practice in order to accomplish that.
And
And
actually
so,
creating, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kev.
no, go ahead.
And actually creating a written financial plan, whether it's virtual or
Yeah,
on paper, it is a core piece of what you do. It's, I mean,
yeah.
there aren't many clients in your practice who don't have a financial plan, right? And if they
No,
don't,
I would like to have more of them, to be honest. I would like
okay.
more.
And you've also leveraged subscription fees, a subscription
Yes.
program to help make that more palatable, affordable
Yeah.
for folks, and to
Yeah.
help
And then,
improve your
yeah, make
cash.
it a little bit easier for people to come up with a cable bill a month instead of, you know, a larger chunk on an annual basis. And then it's also there to help with the fact that it's not a one time of year, although we may update it one time per year. Um, it's ongoing, and when you have a change in life, how does that impact what's going on? And so, a lot of times back in the old days, you completed a financial plan and you got that info, and then it was a couple of years later when you updated it, and then you had to start all over again, and everything had changed. And the reality is things were different as soon as they walked out the door after you printed the first one.
Right.
And so it is always an ongoing fluid experience. And I think that's where the monthly subscription is fair to both parties.
Agreed. I see you as somebody out in front of that, as you are in a lot of things, and that purposefulness that fuels your thought process and your actions in your life and in your business and in your interactions with others, whether it's Ask, Autism Support of Kent County, or the ladies who partner with you in the firm. It really does drive you to think more deeply and act more intently, in terms of building what you want. And as somebody who's an outsider looking in, but somewhat connected, we've been working together for a while now.
Couple of years.
Yeah, it seems to me that yours is a business unlike most, and the key ingredient in making it different and better than most is that purposefulness, is that intention, and the drive that it inspires in you and the team to go do these great things outside of the business, but also in the business. And it's been fun to watch. So,
Well, I appreciate that. I like to say I have an autistic business, and you just described some of the positives of being on the autism spectrum. So,
well, I'm glad I could do that. Kevin, any last thoughts, anything that we didn't discuss that you think might be helpful as it relates to building a more purposeful life, business, purposeful relationships, whatever? Any other thoughts?
I would have to say that it's difficult to help someone live a life of purpose if you yourself don't live a life of purpose. And so I would suggest you may think it's selfish, but work on yourself. You'll find that it's a lot easier to help some other people too.
I think that's pretty powerful advice. And with that, I'll thank you again, my good friend Kevin Gardenier of Purposeful Wealth Strategies in Michigan, for coming on, for sharing these insights, some of the not so fun stories, or occurrences that helped fuel you to become even more so what you are, which is a focused, intentional, purposeful, pretty cool guy. And I'm glad to call you a friend. And
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for taking the time today. This has been A Story to Tell, A Purposeful Life, or The Purposeful Life of Kevin Gardenier. It's part of our podcast series, What's Next for Financial Advisors, the podcast. That's Kevin Gardenier. I'm Bill Rambo, one of the partners with What's Next for Financial Advisors. You can find us at what'snext.coach pretty easily. I want to thank you for spending some time today to hear this wonderful story, and keep an eye out, because we'll be having some more podcasts coming out real soon, and we've got some others in the hopper that we're working on, other excellent insights and stories that we're going to share with you. And as always, as we leave you in something like this, we think it's vital that you make sure you spend a little time considering what's next. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.